Hey cousins, it's Robbin. I'm back with another episode of the Sunday Dinner Podcast. Thank you for being here. Have a really amazing, brilliant treasure of a guest today in Dr. Hall. Dr. Hall, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting. I love the environment and everything.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today a little bit about health, right? So we know Sunday Dinner Podcast is all the things we should be talking about if we were still having Sunday dinner every Sunday, right? Mm-hmm. And so lots of conversations come up, particularly about our health, that we are not having, and we don't have good sound counsel in our families. And so just want to let our viewers know a little bit about you. So you're a Clevelander, born and raised. So just tell us your story a little bit.
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Cleveland, grew up in Glenville. I went to Miles Standish, which became Mike White Elementary School.
Yes.
And major work and ended up in private school. And
major work, private school. We have that in common.
Yeah.
Good old major work.
Yeah, absolutely. Eventually became a physician. I was trained at Cleveland Clinic. I was in private practice for 20 years. And then I decided to get a job at University Hospital as the medical director of the Cutler Center for Men. And so we're trying to improve men's health and minority men's health. Yes. And they've also agreed to establish a Center for African American Health. And so I'll be the medical director of that. And so we're working on that. So really just trying to make the world a better place.
Yeah, one person at a time. I love it. Such a visionary, such a leader, right? Because you kind of established both of these institutes, right?
Well, you know, Dr. Lee Ponsky established the men's health.
Got it.
And so I was interviewing for the minority men's medical director, and then they elevated me to the medical director position. But it's definitely my idea to do the Center for African American Health, because that's the first hospital-based center in the country. And so it takes great vision on their part to kind of let me do that, right?
Yes.
Because as we know, when you go to a black doctor, you know, black people get better care from birth to death. You know, geriatric care, so from lower infant mortality when they have black OBs, all the way to living longer if you have a black doctor in a nursing home. Yeah. So, and everything in between. So black people do better when they're cared for by black providers. That's just a fact. It's not a racist thing. It's not a bias. It's a fact. And so the more we can increase the number of black doctors and increase your access to black doctors and having people not settle. There's a lot of people settling for the doctor that they don't like. Yeah. You know, they say, I don't like this person, but I'm gonna go see him anyway. You know, that's not acceptable. Or getting your care in an emergency room or in urgent care, thinking that's how you should get health care. And that's not how you should get health care. And so a lot of stuff is missed sort of in that environment. So really trying to give a welcoming environment to people and letting the hospital leadership know that this is a recipe, this is a business decision, this isn't a community outreach decision. This is business. This will get you a market share that you currently don't have. This will bring in people that have excellent insurance and good jobs, but don't go to the doctor. Right. This will bring them into the fold. So it's really a win-win.
Right. I don't know the answer to this. So what made you want to become a physician?
Well, I think the easiest answer is my father was a dentist. Okay. So he kind of was a doctor, and I think I never wanted to do anything else, and so I didn't put a lot of thought into, you know, try this, try that, and then end up there. From elementary school, I was going to be a doctor. I carried a briefcase in elementary school.
I love that. You were at Miles Standish with your briefcase.
Yeah, I was looking like an idiot, but I did. You know, and so it worked out in the end. So, but. Yeah, that's how it worked.
Yeah. So for our family, you know, who may want to become physicians, who have kids that are interested, there's actually this family that I follow on, I think, TikTok. The dad's an orthopedic surgeon. The mom was an attorney, but now stay-at-home mom. And the little girl, she's going to be like 4. But her and her dad talk about cases over dinner. So he's, you know, telling her, you know, what bones did you fix today, right? And so he's explaining it, like using the actual terms, right? Not like, oh, not your arm bone. Like he's calling it, you know, whatever it is. Yeah. And I just think, wow, what an amazing environment this young girl is growing up in.
Yeah, it's the same thing as, you know, LeBron taking his kids to the basketball court early on, right? And and My wife and our oldest son is in medical school right now. His
Love
first
it.
year in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And so that tends to happen, right? So, but my father's father was owned a construction company.
Right.
So it was, and he wanted a son that was a doctor. And so he was deliberate about having my father become whatever kind of doctor he wanted, and ended up being a dentist.
Yeah.
And then I don't think my father was as deliberate, but I just like the example, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing with my son. I have 3 sons. I want them to do whatever they want, but I think one really wanted to do that.
Yeah, so you made it easy for your dad. He's like, great. He already wants to.
Right, in that sense, yeah.
He already wants to do it. So when parenting, right, it's like you can be really deliberate. You can be too deliberate, I think, sometimes. But for parents who've seen like that spark, like what would you suggest they do with their kids to just like nurture and cultivate that interest?
I think what a lot of parents don't do is really spend a lot of time learning about how to parent. You know what I'm saying?
Speak on it.
People think that they just,
Uncle Dr. Paul.
I'm grown, therefore I can make all decisions and I know everything. Yeah. And there's best practices for raising kids.
Tell us some of those.
Well, you have to do what you say. It's all obvious, right? But if you do that again, I'm going to kill you. Well, guess what you're not going to do?
Right.
You're not going to kill them.
Right.
So don't say it. Now, I've thought it multiple times. I thought it.
3 boys.
Right,
There
with
must be
3
a lot
boys,
going on.
But I had to like stop it. So you punish them, you're going to be on punishment, no phone for a month.
Right.
That's also not sustainable.
Right.
And too much work for you. Right? That's too much
As
work.
the warden.
I'm like, I got to deal with all this whining and all that for a month? No.
Right.
So, we're going to take the video games away.
Right.
And you don't have to take the video game away. You just need a video game cord. You leave the video game all plugged in. You just take the power cord out, roll it up, and walk away.
Yes.
And you have full control.
Wow.
For as long as you can stand them around you in the kitchen.
Yes, right.
But so you say, if you do this, you're going to be in punishment for 3 days. Whatever you can do, and then you need to stick to 3 days. Yeah. If you do that again, I'm going to spank you. You need to spank them.
Right.
If you don't, you're not teaching them properly.
Right. And you're losing credibility already.
You are.
They're like, you're not going to do that.
Anything. She always says that, or he always says that, all right?
Yeah.
And so what you do is you teach someone that when I say something, I mean it, and you can depend on me for good and for bad. When you say you're going to do something, you need to do it unless there's something wrong. And then if you don't do it, you need to apologize. Apologizing to children. There's nothing wrong with apologizing to children. You ask them to apologize.
Right.
You can apologize because you can be wrong too. And so I'm so sorry I missed that. That's okay, Dad. I've apologized.
Yes, so have I. Yeah.
As little children.
Right.
You're showing them how to think, how to apologize, how to recognize, how to own things that you do.
That's right.
And there are too many people that don't necessarily do that. You know what I mean? So you read about stuff. I read about leadership, and I'm most places where I go, I'm in charge.
Yes.
Most places. I mean, it took me 30 years to get that.
Right.
But so I'm like, I got to read about leadership, and I got to learn how. So I've read multiple books about how to be a manager, how to be in charge, how to deal with people, how to compliment people, how to get the best out of people. I didn't come with that information. I wasn't born.
Right.
With that information.
Right.
People may say, well, I have a knack for it. Well, you might have a knack for it, for some things, but you don't have a knack for everything.
Right. And then there's always skills, right? There's always learning. Things are always changing.
Absolutely. And then you just got to take advantage of that. So read about parenting, about best practices like I did. Read about how to model, how to, let your children see you be. So you can't sit there with a cigarette and a drink in your hand and say, don't smoke and drink.
Do as I say, not as I do,
and
right?
How many of
us, that's in our
many
families.
of us got that?
Yes. Yes.
And that will fail, right?
Yes.
And so you don't do that. You need to stop smoking if you don't want your kid to smoke. You need to stop drinking if you don't want your kid to drink. That's just a simple. And then is it worth it? Yeah, because those are your genes that you're gonna leave behind.
That's right.
You're gonna leave a disaster behind, or you're gonna leave some model of a person behind.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So smoking and drinking. Like, let's maybe get into the health stuff, right?
Okay, cool.
So you see a lot of patients. You were in private practice for a long time. I think COVID illuminated a lot of, what did they call them? Like underlying health conditions.
Health disparities, yeah.
And health disparities.
It magnified
It
them.
magnified it,
Yeah,
right?
they were all there.
They were already there. We were not talking about it.
Right.
Sunday dinner,
Right.
you know,
Right.
Big Mama, you taking your blood pressure medicine, right? Like these spaces where we would just kind of check in on people informally. I think we've kind of gotten away from it. We rely on social media for a lot of it.
Right.
What are you seeing as, like, if you would have to say, like, the top 3 health concerns in the Black family? I'm going to say family.
It's it's cardiovascular and cancer, and then your diet, nutrition. Things like that. Those are the main things. And when you think about the family, what the family talks about, what they don't talk about.
Yeah.
I find that Black families don't talk about their health as much.
Yeah.
So if somebody had cancer, when I was sitting at the kitchen table, my grandmother was washing dishes. And I remember my mother went away when I was in elementary school to take care of my grandmother because she had surgery for something that I assumed was cancer.
Right.
So now I'm a doctor grown with my grandmother who's 80-something years old. I said, well, what kind of cancer did you have back, when I was little? So I can find out what I'm increased risk for.
That's right.
She stopped washing the dish and turned and looked like, who do you think you are? Asking such a question.
Right.
That's a very personal question.
Wow.
You don't talk about stuff like that. So I was like, all right, but if she had ovarian cancer, I should know.
That's right.
She had cervical cancer, maybe less so, and she did have ovarian cancer, which So it was one of the few people to survive that. And my mother died of a female cancer. Wow. She actually died of leukemia, but she also had uterine cancer. So it does sort of run in the family. And so if you know what runs in your family, then that gives us the heads up to really look for stuff like that. If you have a bladder cancer, lung cancer, less so, because usually that's associated with smoking, but colon cancer, breast cancer definitely increases your risk. So these are things that you need to know. It shouldn't be a big, dark secret that so-and-so has cancer. They need to be talking about it so that it empowers people to get mammograms and things of that nature. I had a 40-some-year-old young lady, and I said, well, it's time to get a mammogram. And she said, mammogram? No one in my family ever had a mammogram. I'm thinking, that's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Who brags about no one not getting mammograms, right? I mean, that you want to get a mammogram and get it early. So if there is anything, you find it early. The old days, the beginning of my practice, we did breast exams. We talked about self-breast exams.
Yeah.
You don't hear that anymore.
Yeah.
We don't want you to do a breast exam because if you feel something, it's way bigger than you want it to be. But a mammogram can see something that's microscopic, and they take it out, and they don't have to do a mastectomy or anything. Right. So it's really, I don't do breast exams anymore. You need a mammogram. So because breast exams is doing you a disservice because you think you're doing something, and you're really neglecting the best practice.
I'm going to tell you, and I don't know that I've even shared my story with a lot of people, but in college, I went to a women's college, right? So, in the 90s, it was all about, you had the little hanger in the shower and it's like, do your breast exam. So I always do it, do it around every month around your cycle. So I do it and I feel something. I'm like, I don't feel anything. So like a couple days go by and I'm like, let me just check again. Turns out there was something there. Now it was just what they determined to be a ruptured cyst, but I had gone through doctors like, yeah, something there. They did a mammogram. They came back. They were like, we need to do another type of mammogram. We see it. We don't know what it is.
Oh, scary.
Yeah.
You were making funeral arrangements probably.
In my mind, I was, because they were like, we'll aspirate it. We'll try to see if any fluid comes out. And the doctor was just like, I just don't know. And I was like, guess what? Take it out. Right? But I found that myself, and I think I shared it. But even sitting here talking to you, I don't know that I shared it widely enough with the women in my family and my circle to say, hey, are y'all doing this every month, to just even as a first? Right. I get the mammogram because that's also the message now, right?
Yeah.
But like just paying attention to ourselves and then talking about these things with our family.
That's what you should do. That's what people don't do.
That's what we don't do.
People brag about. I had an aunt call me last night and said, I'm 92 and I'm not on any medicine. She probably said it 4 times, on the same phone. I'm like, why are you bragging? I said, I'm 63 and I'm on 4 medicines.
Yes.
3 for blood pressure, 1 for cholesterol. And so, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that because my blood pressure is good.
Right.
To brag about not being on blood pressure medicine and have your blood pressure be 200 over 110, you shouldn't brag about that. That's not worth bragging about, right? You brag
No.
about having your blood pressure be 115 over 65.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Tell the family what your blood pressure
Yeah.
should be. You can stop in the grocery stores now. You can go in CVS and you can just kind of do
You
like
buy
a little,
that,
a
buy
little.
those Omron arm
Yeah.
things. I have one. And speaking of Sunday dinner,
Yeah.
you come over to my house, you're gonna get your
Get your
blood
blood
pressure
pressure
checked.
checked. I love it.
My
Are you
kids'
taking blood?
friends,
Are you taking sugar? Are you taking
yes.
glucose readings too?
No, but I'm checking
you're taking
everybody's
blood pressure.
My son,
I love
a
that.
third of black men at 30 have hypertension. A third
We gotta get
of
into
black
this.
men at 30. So, and how many black men at 30 are on blood pressure medicine? I bet you it's 1% or something like that. A very small amount. So when people drop dead at 48 or 49, you say, oh, they had a heart attack and died out of the clear blue sky. The sky was not clear and blue.
Yeah.
Their blood pressure was high, and I bet you if you went to the urgent care or if you went anywhere and looked at what their blood pressure was, it was high. And so their body had high hypertension untreated for 20 years, and eventually you couldn't take it anymore, and they had a heart attack or a stroke.
So can we be academic for a minute?
Sure.
Talk to us about blood pressure and the life force is the blood, right? So doctors learn a lot about our blood, but blood pressure, what does it tell you, as a physician? What is it?
Well, your blood has to have a certain pressure so that it doesn't damage your various organs, right?
Okay.
So when your vessels can't hold the blood inside of it, they burst open, right? And if that happens in your brain, you have an aneurysm rupture,
right.
and you could die from that.
Yeah.
If your pressure is too high in your kidneys, it damages your kidneys, and that causes premature kidney failure, right? And so that we don't want. That leads to dialysis and things like that. So you worry about if it goes in your heart, it could rupture and it causes a heart attack. So these things all are related to your high blood pressure. That's what aneurysms, embolism, peripheral artery disease, kidney failure, all that stuff is related to your blood pressure being high, persistently high, and not being low. So people say, well, it's just stress. Life is stressful. I've had a stressful life. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I need blood pressure medicine. Maybe 2 of those 3 need to be because of my stressful life.
Right.
But when I stop having a stressful life, maybe I'll need only 2 blood pressure medicines. But it's important to know what your blood pressure is. And people will say, well, it's only high when I'm with you, or it's only high when I'm in the hospital. It's only high. Well, that's why you buy this machine.
Yes.
You measure it at home, Sunday morning, feet on the ground, calm and cool. What's my blood pressure? And if it's not less than 140 over less than 90,
Okay.
you have a problem.
Okay.
Right.
140 over 90.
Yeah, less
family.
than that. Both numbers.
140 over 90 is
Right,
the
right.
number.
But ideally, it needs to be 120
20
or less than 80.
over less than 80.
That's
Hear
why I
that?
said I want mine 115 over 65.
Yes.
But you're not going to be put on medicine if it's 135. They're going to say, watch your salt, right? Now let's ease into
salt.
salt. Now,
Yes.
us of African descent, what part of us is of African descent? If we have salt sensitivity, that will really drive up your blood pressure. So they say, what can I do naturally to bring my blood pressure down? Well, you could put less salt. If you put half the salt that you normally do, you bring your blood pressure down 10 to 15 points.
Right.
So if you 152 and you eating popcorn and salted nuts and all that
Popcorn, that's
stuff,
what's next.
and you cut that in half, you might bring the 152 down to 138.
Right.
Now you don't need medicine, right? But you can't stick your head in the sand. We were talking earlier before the show about the book called Ancestral Genomics by Constance Hilliard. And she talks about that we are descendants of African farmers that come from a part of Africa that is very low amount of salt.
Wow.
And that low salt means our bodies adjusted over centuries to not seeing a lot of salt. Then we were captured by the black people on the coast
Right.
that weren't salt sensitive and sent over to an area that was high in salt. And that's where a lot of this blood pressure, kidney failure, all those things it really is because of our genes. And some of it, and it is because of our diet, because we're eating a diet so high in salt, much higher than we're used to. We're also supposed to be in the sun, African farmers, 12-hour days,
Yes.
12-hour nights, in the sun. Farmers are not inside playing video games.
Right. Under blue
Farmers
lights.
are
and
out in the sun. And so
technology
that's
and
why
all these things.
vitamin D deficiency is so widespread. We're supposed to have 12 hours of sun year round. In Cleveland, what do we get? 6 or 7 in the winter. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
get more in the summer. and we're not in the sun. We don't seek out the sun.
We don't.
So we're all vitamin D deficient. And vitamin D deficiency is associated with hypertension, diabetes, breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, all the things that are number one problems in African American community. So that's just another vitamin D deficiency, vitamin C deficiency. We don't eat enough fruit. Zinc deficiency. We don't get vegetables out of mineral-rich soils. All those things are disproportionately affecting us.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation and, this notion of this type of conversation because, I just turned 50 and what was that?
Well, and we all look so good. You know what I mean? I'm 63, you're 50, and
Yeah,
you look like you could be, I don't know, 32 or something like that.
Dr. Hall.
I'm just saying.
So I literally probably Dr. Hedden was my doctor until I relocated.
He is my doctor now.
He is?
Yeah,
Oh
David
my
Hedden. Yeah,
gosh.
he's a great doctor.
Oh, yes. We love Dr. Hedden. Shout out to Dr. Hedden.
Absolutely.
But I think I started going to him maybe 7 years ago. And that was the first time that I had my vitamin D. And he checks everything.
Right.
And the great thing about him, talking about having a provider that's Black, right? Treating a Black person. The first time I saw him, in the morning, by 4 o'clock, he's calling me. And I'm like, the doctor calls people? I didn't even know that was a thing anymore, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm just calling to let you know, go get your vitamin D. I already called it in. Your vitamin D is too low. This is low. You need iron. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I always tell people. So I sent a bunch of people to him. And then when I met you, I'm like, I sent a bunch of people to you. And I'm like, people will say, well, it doesn't matter. But it does matter.
It does matter.
When you have a physician who actually cares about you and the fact that you share a heritage.
Right. Well, and in Cleveland is small. I tell people, if something happens to you, somebody I know is going to be at your funeral.
That's right.
You just saw Dr. Hall last week. That's not good for business, right?
Right.
So it's the world is much smaller than you think.
Yes.
And so you try to leave everybody better than you found them. You don't try to take advantage of anybody. And I think that's the key. But yeah, I've been calling people with their labs forever. Now with, my
Love
chart
it.
and Epic,
Yeah.
you don't have to do it as much as people can just see their
Right,
labs.
right.
But there's still, there's people like us that still do that.
Yeah, but for the first, I'm going to say in my adult life, 20 years of my adult life, no doctor ever checked my vitamin D level.
Yeah, no.
And
They don't know because they don't know.
Yeah. So I'm glad we're having this no salt.
Not no salt. No
Well,
one
low
wants to eat anything
salt.
with no salt, but just have it. My brother and I will watch YouTube videos of people
Yes.
cooking stuff.
Yes.
And you see how much salt other people put on
They
stuff.
just keep.
They just dump it on
And they say
there.
they're trying to get the restaurant
And I'm like,
taste.
my God. I know they have high blood, and they steadily sweating on camera,
Yes.
right? Right, so
He said, I know you got high blood pressure because you're sweating.
You're sweating on camera. So, that makes a difference.
That is too funny. But, and even talking about food, like Sunday dinner, right? So having all the foods that we need to kind of get at some of those minerals, right? It's hard, right? Because
Very
you got to
hard.
eat the rainbow. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, you want to have my father used to say, you want to have something green on your plate.
Yeah,
If
right.
it was up to me when I was young, there wouldn't be anything green on my
Right.
plate. It would be mashed potatoes and gravy and chicken.
Right.
And coleslaw. There's nothing green on your plate. unless
Right.
it's real good coleslaw.
Right.
Which it wasn't, right?
Right.
So you got to be deliberate about making sure you have something green, fruit, different colors. You don't even eat just oranges. You got to eat some blueberries. So when you're picking fruit, you got to get a variety of things: raspberries, blueberries, apples, pears, so that each is bringing different things to the table. Some has more zinc, some has more magnesium, some has more potassium, and so you do want to do that, but it's really hard to do that on a daily basis. And so that's why I developed a multivitamin.
That's right. Let's get into
in front
it.
of us, and really, I wrote a book on the clinical care of African Americans. And based on the book is when I found out there were certain deficiencies that were specific to African Americans that white people didn't have a problem with, to be honest with. And it's like vitamin D, for example.
Right.
Check white people's vitamin D, it's normal most of the time. Black people, particularly in Northeast Ohio, it's almost always low unless they're taking a supplement.
Right.
That's the only kind of way it is. And so I said, I was writing the book, I said, I could develop a multivitamin that would have the right amount of vitamin D. Because when it says on the back, it says 100%
of your daily
whatever that
recommended
daily amount that you need.
Yeah.
That's 100% of the daily amount of what a white man needs.
Oh,
That's
my
what
goodness.
it is. That's what it is. So take vitamin
We're
D.
still being our standard of life is
Well, they're mostly they make stuff for the average man, right? The average man in the United States is white.
And I always wonder, like, even with vitamins, like, why is there a man's vitamin and a woman's vitamin?
Well, the women's vitamins is like 85% of the men's vitamin. That's all that is.
Yeah, now I know it's like
That's all that
based
is.
on the
It's just
standard.
still
Women
based
don't
on
need
the
as
white.
much.
That's still based
the
on
white
man.
Yeah.
But vitamin D, for example, white men need 600 international units of vitamin D a day to maintain a normal level. We need 2,000.
Wow.
So you would need to take 3, whatever multivitamin you were taking, in order to just get the right amount of vitamin D, and zinc, and then there are other vitamins like vitamin K. You know, vitamin K causes our blood to clot. That's why we don't bleed to death. Or if you had hemophilia and you go to the hospital, they'll give you vitamin K, right?
Wow.
So, but who has the highest risk for clot in the brain, clot in the heart, clot in the legs?
We have too much vitamin K?
I don't know if we have too much vitamin K, but we have the highest risk for blood clotting.
Yeah.
So do we need more vitamin K? Do we need more of something that causes our blood to clot if we have by far the highest risk for clotting?
No.
And is there any evidence of vitamin K deficiencies in African Americans? No. Widespread vitamin D deficiency, no vitamin K deficiency.
And we're just taking a one-off vitamin that
from
is
A
for
to
a white
zinc,
man.
right?
From A to zinc, right.
Right, that's what they're doing. So
made for a white man.
So we do need zinc, we need magnesium,
Yes.
we need potassium, we need vitamin C, we need vitamin D, but we don't need vitamin E. Vitamin E was associated with increased risk for prostate cancer.
Wow.
So black men should not be taking the 400 international units. That's that oval one that I had in my cabinet.
Yep.
That puts me at increased risk for prostate cancer, one of those a day. They stopped the study because they thought it was going to prevent prostate cancer, and they found the people that were taking it were actually getting more aggressive prostate cancer.
Wow.
So there's no vitamin E in the multivitamin because I'm not trying to give anybody prostate cancer. There's no vitamin K because I'm not trying to give anyone a heart attack or stroke.
Making more clots.
There's no calcium because calcium is associated with increased risk for prostate cancer. And possibly an increased risk for hormone-negative breast cancer.
Which
is still a little early, but they wonder, like, with black women tend to get more hormone-negative breast cancer, and they think that may be related to calcium.
Yeah, I did see a documentary once, and it was actually talking about the most famous, well-known breast cancer research and fundraising organization. And they were talking about how calcium is a problem for this particular type of breast cancer. I think you're talking about maybe.
Right.
And how one of the biggest sponsors of this organization was a yogurt manufacturer with all this calcium, but the calcium actually exactly what you're saying.
Right, it's not good. And that's just like a big problem.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because
marketing.
they don't know, there's no money to go into looking at something like that.
Yep.
And, with things like, I tell my patients, if you're lactose intolerant, you're probably calcium intolerant. So if you're lactose intolerant, you shouldn't be kind of going around that and taking something that's going to make you not lactose intolerant.
Right.
Or if they drink something that's made for lactose intolerant people, because you may be giving yourself calcium and you're particularly sensitive to that. And so it's potential. If you're lactose intolerant, that means you shouldn't have milk. And what's the biggest thing in milk? Calcium.
Calcium, right.
So, I mean, that's what I say. If you're not, like, I'm black and not lactose intolerant.
Okay.
80% of black people are lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
4 out of 5. I'm just one of those 5. My 3, I'm like the only one. I'm 5 of us. There's like 2 out of 5 that aren't.
That are,
and 3 of us that are, right?
Like,
but I am salt sensitive.
Okay.
And so you figure these things out.
Right.
And so I don't drink a lot of milk just because I just don't want that much.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if you are lactose intolerant, you're probably calcium intolerant. You want to think about that.
Yeah. I love the fact that you took your love and care for us and developed vitamins that meet our needs, right?
Tries to
meet our needs.
You can't. Everybody, you know how much black.
Yeah.
Some people 90% black. I'm 52%.
Yeah.
There's
right.
all these ranges, so you can't meet everyone, but it's far better than taking something made for white people.
Yeah. So, you're a physician. you just share with us that you take blood pressure medicine, or you take 4 different medicines. I think one was for blood pressure.
Yeah, 1 for cholesterol and 3 for blood pressure. Yeah.
So, our family, our Black folks, we're a
Right.
little bit skeptical, right?
Right.
Medicine, I was, not taking that, or, it's not going to make me better, or all the side effects. Watching TV with my mom last night, and every commercial break, there were 2 new pharmaceutical drug commercials. I said, I can't believe this. It's been like 8 different medicines in this 30-minute
Right.
show.
Right.
What do you say to our family, to our people about, like, one, advocating for themselves? Like, if you're not feeling well, if something's wrong, like, go to the doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when the doctor says, I'm going to give you a prescription for X, I don't know if I want to take that, or do we take it? Like, what would be a good rule of thumb for us to have?
Well, I mean, I think whatever it is, what my pushback from patients, is that I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to start exercising. I'm going to start eating right. So we'll do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And see
I
what
told
happens
Dr. Hedden
to
that too, and it
see
didn't
what
happen.
happens to the problem.
Right.
But I'm not going to sit back and watch your blood pressure be high while you don't
That's right.
do what you said you were going to do.
Right.
So if I someday become a vegetarian, my blood pressure goes down, maybe I won't need that blood pressure medicine anymore, right? But for now, and I confess to my patients, if you put fish in front of me, I'd love it to be fried.
Right.
I would hate it to be baked.
Right.
That's just the fact.
Right.
I mean, and so that's not going to change in me. So I take a cholesterol-lowering medicine so I can eat the fried fish, because I know I'm hard-headed.
Right.
I try not to eat. I can eat barbecue chicken. I can eat baked chicken. But I
Comes to
love it
fish?
fried. Somebody
Yes.
goes, you bring a bucket of chicken over my house, I'm eating some.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
And that goes way back to young Dr. Hall, when it was
Absolutely.
mashed potatoes and gravy was the
and
preference, and
macaroni
fried chicken.
and cheese, absolutely.
Nothing green.
But we've learned, right?
Right,
And so
right.
we've learned. I try to pull the skin off of some of it. You know what I mean? I try to,
You're
because
so
I know
good.
I'm not supposed to have that.
Right.
You learn, you know, right? So now I put turkey in the greens.
Right.
I put turkey in the black eyed peas. Right. In the old days, it was pork. Right.
Right.
So I made that transition, and I can't tell the difference.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean? And so
Yeah.
as you get older, and as time passes, we all get these new things. I got smartphones. I got
Yes.
navigation systems. We using that, right? So you're adopting new things. I think when the new medicines come out, you need to wait and see what happens with them. And so
Yeah.
there are people waiting to see what the Ozempic and all that stuff's going
Right.
to do. But after, 30 years of blood pressure medicine, 30 years of cholesterol lowering medicine,
Yeah.
nobody's grown a second head, it's probably safe to take.
That's right.
And
That's right.
have a normal blood pressure so that you can live longer. We haven't even talked about life expectancy. The life expectancy of the average Asian American is 87.
Wow.
Average.
Right.
That means there's people living into the hundreds.
Hundreds. Yeah.
And the average life expectancy of African Americans is 73. That gives me 10 years.
Scary.
And
That's really scary.
It's crazy. So it's
Yeah.
76 for women and 71 for black men, but that's crazy. So there's 70. There's a generation between, Asian American and a black American. So and so what is that? That's diet, that's nutrition. I live in a white neighborhood. There are people walking past my house all day. I'm like, where are these people? When I moved out there, I'm like, why are these people? Where are they going?
Yeah.
They're just walking and walking and walking and walking and walking. Black neighborhoods, there's very few people walking for health.
Right.
And I'm not out there walking. My wife ain't out there walking.
Right,
My
right.
kids aren't out there walking.
Right.
So we don't think about getting that type of exercise and being deliberate about it like people of other cultures.
Yeah.
And they're living longer because of that.
Yeah.
Right? So we're eating salty foods, we're eating fatty foods, we're eating fried foods, we're sitting around, we're overweight, and we're living less.
Yeah.
And then too many of us think we know too much.
Yeah. And there's like this overload of information. I live in an apartment building, like a condo building, and my neighbor across the hall, we have underground parking. So she walks the floor, like we live on the 3rd floor. So she walks down one end, she goes down the steps, she walks the other end. And this is how she And then you'll get to the garage and you'll see her like doing her laps in the parking garage. So, and she's probably in her 70s. I think her and her husband are retired, but I'm like, man, one day I'm going to get out there and walk like that. Right. But so I trick myself and I'm like, oh, I'm going to the gym. But I'm like, this lady's probably clocking her 10,000 steps just here, not spending a dime. And here I am with a gym membership going
We're
a couple
doing
times.
a lot. I mean, I get it. But I mean, it's like with use advancements, whatever advancements there in science, you already use them.
Yes.
But you all when it goes up into medicine.
Yeah, when it comes to our health,
I don't wanna do that. You load a new app on your phone in a minute.
And pay for it.
Right. But I don't know about that. I mean, and they have to research the hell out of these things before they can even release them to the first wave. But again, I don't think you want to be in the first wave of any medicine.
Yes.
When people were saying, I don't want the COVID vaccine, in January of 2020, I can understand that.
Right,
Let's see what happens. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But by June, we'd seen enough.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And people were disproportionately dying. And now it's safe, right?
Right.
This is damn near 2025. It's safe.
Right.
Right. So it does a lot to do what
Do we
it's
need
supposed
to
to
get?
do.
Do we need to get the COVID? I saw a commercial for that the other day. It's like, hey, come to CVS to get your COVID
Well, I
vaccine.
mean, I
I'm
think
like, are we
COVID
immune?
is not as deadly to the average person like it was. The first version was deadly.
Yeah.
Now, my wife just had it, and then I was going to get the latest one, but she had it, and so I got a very, very mild version of it. Very mild version, like never
Felt like
was
a
never
cold.
sick.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a bad cold. And then that's your latest vaccine.
Okay.
Haven't got it.
Right.
Right.
Right. Okay.
But if you've got COPD, if you smoke, you got heart disease and diabetes and all that,
you don't even want the mild version.
Get the vaccine. Yeah, because it'll still kill you if you got 9 toes in the grave.
And
it will take that last toe. It will take the last toe.
And the same thing for the flu vaccine, because that's one that I've often resisted.
I got the flu one Christmas at my father's birthday party, and this guy came. I won't say his name, and he said, I was sick, but I can't miss your father's party.
Oh yes, you can.
And he gave all of us some flu, and I was sick as a dog. I'm laying in bed. I was single, and I'm laying in bed looking like if I went to the hospital, they would admit me. That's how sick I was, and I was in my 20s. And so ever since then, I get the flu shot.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that sick anymore.
Right.
And I haven't been sick since I do that.
Yeah.
As a doctor, the hospital makes us get it annually now, because I probably would forget one year. And forget.
Yeah.
But the flu shot is nothing. The pneumonia shot, nothing. Like the COVID shot, I got a plan. I need a day off.
Right.
If I get the COVID shot, I got to recover. The shingles shot takes a little wind out of your cells.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Recommend
all
that?
shots are.
I guess I'm at that age.
Dr. Hedden made me get the shingles shot.
Yeah.
So I just did what he asked. I didn't really want it. But I think if you have a good immune system, you can fight anything.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
There are people, when you talk about your immune system, there are people that have sex with people that have HIV and don't get it.
Wow.
You ever thought about that?
No, I didn't.
I've seen it many times.
Wow.
Many times. And because their immune system is such that they're not getting.
So
I'm not recommending it.
Right. We're not recommending that.
So there's people you ever wake up with a sore throat and I'm gonna be sick, and then by noon nothing happened.
Yeah.
That was your immune system. That was your immune system. It fought it and did away with it.
So how do we strengthen our immune systems?
Well, zinc. Well, using your immune system, you see people walking around with masks on.
Right.
There's still people walking around with masks on.
Okay, I'm about to get on a plane tomorrow, and I'm gonna put mine on. But you're saying,
but masks.
Let the person behind me that's coughing and sneezing.
Masks protect you from. Masks do work.
Yeah.
They screen out the spray.
Yeah.
And they will keep you from getting exposed to stuff.
Right.
But they also weaken your immune system because we weren't born with masks. Right. We were born with nasal turbinates and all these little angles so that when we inhale stuff, it gets captured there. It doesn't go all the way into our lungs.
Yeah.
So we're more apt to get a sinus infection because that's where the stuff was stopped.
Right.
Versus if you had a trach,
you
would inhale bacteria, goes into your lungs, you'd end up with more chances of getting pneumonia. So when you get a mask, it stops there. But then your immune system's not getting any exercise. So if you stay in bed for 2 days, you can barely walk to the bathroom. So you wear a mask and you don't ever get exposed to anything, Then somebody brings your snotty-nosed niece and nephew over to your
There
house.
you go.
And you don't have a mask, you're going to get sick as a dog
There
because
you
your
go.
immune system hasn't done anything for weeks or months.
Yeah.
And and the organism kind of came into your space.
Yes.
So it's, we weren't born with masks. You need to have a strong immune system, and you have to use your immune system in order for it to work.
In order for it to work. That's great. And take some zinc.
Zinc, magnesium, potassium, take them.
Take the multivitamin.
Yeah.
Get Dr. Hall's
I'm
multivitamins.
just saying, better than not.
Yes. And where can we find these actually?
Well, they're on Amazon.
Okay.
And they're also on sequencemultivitamins.com.
Okay. Maybe we'll put a link. Can we put a link in that? Okay. I'll put a link.
Yeah. And if you're in Cleveland, they're at Dave's Supermarket.
So I love that the vitamins are available in Dave's. They're available on Amazon. And we certainly will drop a link because, the reason why I'm doing this, Dr. Hall, is I just want our people to be better. Mm-hmm. I want us to be well. I want us to thrive. When you start looking back at history and you just see the genius and how we overcome, and then I just look at how we're doing today as, a mass, right? Like, of course, there are pockets of people that are thriving and doing well, but I'm always concerned about those of us who aren't, especially when it comes to our health. Like, I hear you saying, just eat something green, move your body, really just pay attention to the small things. Like, if you've been eating salt all week, maybe just have some vegetables that aren't salted. Yeah, when it comes to Sunday dinner, no salt on the, or just, make those small changes. Because I think we think I've either got to do this big, massive overhaul and juice detox and all these things, but we just have to start, right?
You just have to be mindful of what it is. My son was making eggs. He cooked 4 eggs.
Wow.
I'm like, my God. You know what I mean? You need 4 eggs?
Right.
It's like, that's a lot of cholesterol. So it's just like, maybe you need 2. Yeah. Or you eat 4 pieces of bacon. Yeah. Maybe you need 2. Yeah. Or, you should.
And I think we got to
salt.
be careful too with social media, because every other influencer, you would see keto, you would see all these things. Now the new thing is hyper keto, some type of, so it's like, we're constantly being fed these ways.
These things, I know. And, but I think you should check with your doctor.
Check with your doctor. Get a doctor if you don't have a doctor.
Yeah, right. And just let somebody who's on your side advise you about that, because those people that are on there, they're on their side.
That's right.
Right. And so
you want you to follow them.
Right.
At the end, it's always, hey, follow me or click the link if you want some coaching, right? They're going to charge you. But you have a provider, you have a physician. If you have a Black physician, if you're a female, if you have a Black OB/GYN, like somebody who cares, right? And we know all skin folk ain't kin folk. I'm just going to say it.
Right, absolutely.
But that's why you get a chance to have a visit, talk to the providers, try to understand, where they're coming from and how they actually care about their patients, right? And caring about Black people is a bonus.
And
do
if
the
you have
work.
a white doctor or an Indian doctor that you love, I love them too.
That's right.
Don't leave them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm not trying to break up anything,
No.
I'm just saying what the facts
that.
are. Those are what the facts are. You live longer with a Black doctor. That's just the facts, but there's exceptions, obviously.
Yeah, there are. And one of the exceptions, so May of 2023, I fell down and tore my patella tendon. And got home to Atlanta. I'm like, I don't even have a doctor here yet, because I was still kind of an Ohio resident. And I just found this doctor, Indian doctor, who I love. And when I get in there and he starts talking about how he went to Morehouse Medical School, I was like, okay,
right. The closest thing.
I'm good, right? But it ended up, he told me about my case, and he was like, I work on professional athletes all the time. He said, you had the worst tear I've ever seen in my whole career. He said, I had to invent a new way to stitch up the tendon to fix you, right? But he was so personable and so caring, and that proximity, I'm sure, to us. I don't know his backstory or where he grew up, but it made a difference, and I'm sure it made a difference. So thank you for being here, Dr. Hall.
Yeah. Well, I would say if you want to read more about African American health, I've got my website is drgreghall.com.
Thank you.
I've got 1 million articles all related to specific things that are unique to African Americans in terms of diet and all kinds of stuff. Again, sequencemultivitamins.com is where those are, but they're also on Amazon.
Yes.
For genetic sequence multivitamins, and we also have the nonprofit National Institute
Yes.
for
Oh my
African American
gosh.
Health,
Yes.
which is growing, and we're being delivered about helping Black students get into medical school and stay in medical school.
And how do medical students or
students,
students interested in going to medical school get in touch with you through that?
Yeah, that's NIAH.org, NIAAH.org. So you can register. If you know someone who wants to be a doctor, that's a great place for them. Or if you are a doctor and you want to help mentor these students or pay, you can go there as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're excited about it. Got a lot of things going on.
Dr. Hall, you're
and listen to Better Black Health, my podcast.
Yes, please listen to Dr. Hall's podcast, Better Black Health.
Yeah.
I just started following you, so fellow podcaster,
Absolutely.
I appreciate this hour so much. You've taken out to talk to the family, just some early stuff. So hopefully you'll join us again down the road.
Absolutely.
As things continue to change and we continue to try to get our family and our friends well and thriving in terms of their health. But on your Sunday dinner plate, the 3 things you got to have.
You're making me. We got to have salad. I think I'm serious. You got it.
Okay, we got to have. You have to have a salad.
Mashed potatoes and gravy.
Okay.
I mean, it's the cheapest thing, but I love it. Can be instant too.
Okay, so that's on your plate.
Oh my God!
You like instant mashed potatoes?
I can't tell the difference.
Mashed potatoes and gravy. That's your thing.
Mashed potatoes and gravy, and I guess if it's really fried chicken is going right there.
Okay.
And I'm gonna take my cholesterol pill.
And you're gonna take your blood pressure.
And I'm gonna take my blood pressure pill, but that's probably my ideal. It's probably gonna need to be a roll next to there too.
Okay. So a roll, mashed potatoes and gravy and fried chicken.
Yes.
That's what's on your plate.
I'm sorry.
If you come to the halls for Sunday dinner, be prepared to pull up your sleeve to get your blood pressure.
I'll be sneaking and eating that, right?
Oh, that'll be in the kitchen. But you be prepared to roll up your sleeve and get your blood pressure checked.
Absolutely.
I love that, family. That's something we can do, right? Somebody in the family buy a blood pressure monitor, and when family comes over, just check on your people.
Check on them.
That's what this is all about. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Hall.
Yep.
Sunday Dinner Podcast. Thank y'all for watching. Take care.